well as M, which is our chat assistant. So I work with partners and developers every day to help them build, design, launch really compelling bot experiences.
Hello everyone, my name is Anamita Guha. I work at IBM Watson. I'm a part of a small, scrappy team called the Watson Developer Labs, and I focus on conversational interfaces. And what my team is doing, our goal is to get developers to build with Watson, so kind of debunk everyone's myths that they have about IBM and help them build.
Hey everyone, I'm Rachel Sklar. I started out as a child abuse investigator, so this is a new world for me. I'm a co-founder over at LifeSpark, where we are teaching parents of young children how to effectively help their children listen better and cooperate. It's our first area that we're navigating. And I'm the Chief Content Officer. I bring my knowledge as a workshop leader. I teach workshops all over the Bay Area in parenting. I have a private practice as a parent coach.
And I'm Stephen Abrahams, and I drive product partnerships at Skype and focus really on how we can best bring brands and services and unique experiences that really leverage Skype's conversational canvas, but also kind of the people who are doing 3 billion minutes of calling a day on Skype. And so thank you for having all of us.
Yeah, of course. So in terms of the format of this discussion, it's going to be a 30-minute panel and then a 15-minute Q&A from the audience. So you can save your questions for the end. And in terms of the questions, it doesn't need to be down the line. It could be anyone can answer, and you're also encouraged to ask each other questions. So the first question is, in what ways are bots changing the way people learn? And anyone can answer that.
Start going down the line.
Sure.
So I think that bots bring a unique superpower in that they're conversational. They can ask you questions as a customer. And then they can listen to what users say. Right now, I don't know if bots truly are changing the way people learn yet, but there's a number of different use cases that, at least at Quizlet, that we see. For instance, you might think about group quizzing and how a bot might facilitate outside of school interaction and helping to take that kind of social scene within the school and distribute and facilitate, almost like a trivia master, a quizzing event to help people learn and study. In the far future, you might imagine a bot that is kind of like everyone's nerd, that sits in your pocket and on whatever platform that you're using and helps you kind of go through your day to remind you of the test that you have coming up, or to think through, understands like your strengths and weaknesses, because it's been quizzing you and it knows the questions that you've gotten right, the questions that you've gotten wrong, but utilizing kind of a deep range of personalization of you as the individual to help you learn and master whatever it is you're trying to learn.
Awesome. I'm really excited about this. Like, if you can build it so that it learns the way that I learn, and it can be like really personalized and helping me learn any new topic like very personalized in a personalized manner, it's really exciting.
You just have to tell us what you're trying to learn.
Yeah, well, you can teach the bot to like ask the right questions, right? But it's, I think the more than the topic, it's like the how you like to learn and like how the person actually understands content. That's like interesting. And like if you fast forward like a year or two, like when AI is really able to help you with that, that's like one of the things that's like super fascinating. So on Messenger, we've obviously seen partners build a range of experiences. So education is one of the use case and verticals that we see. What's exciting for me, and one way that bots can help like people learn better, is you can build really compelling and engaging and fun experiences. So I'll talk more about bots in the context of messaging. But if you look at some of the education bots like math learning, language learning, coaching bots, you can really gamify the experience and have something that's like a daily digestion of content that's like really fun and personalized. You can use a lot of the mechanics that game developers have used to do like leaderboards and challenging your friends and like bring your social circle of friends into those experiences. And I think that's like one of the things that's really exciting about bots and helping people learn. Yeah.
So I actually think, I have 3 thoughts on this. I think that bots are actually already changing education. On a most basic level, it's really good at aiding habit formation. So you can train your bot to do certain things. It could be like drink water every day, but for education, you can train it to read, do more practice. You can feed it vocab words if you're studying for the SAT. So you can prime yourself to learn all these things and form a habit. The second thing is, I think bots are a really, really good gateway to get students, young students, into tech. It's really easy to quickly build a chatbot. So one of the things we do at IBM Watson in our like K through 12 cognitive curriculum and Girls Who Code is have them build a chatbot as one of the first things they do, because it's really quick, really easy, and it really gets them excited because they created something. And then the third thing, kind of along the lines of what Angelique and Alex were saying, is personalized learning. And I don't think we're 100% there yet, but we're really moving that way. One of the best examples I think we have of personalized learning is Jill Watson, which is a TA at Georgia Tech. I can talk more about that in detail later, but basically it's a TA that has kind of taken away the time that students, or that would be a teaching assistant, would take to answer tedious questions like, when is this due? How much of my grade is related to this? And it really frees it up, and it learns really well based on how students are responding in different chat boards, and they can like communicate and mimic how the student is talking and really almost dupe the student into thinking it's a real person.
I would say, like, as a mom, I'm so excited about what chatbots can bring to the classroom, because my kids go to a Montessori school where each of the students is in a different learning plan, and it's great, but the teacher can't track every student's progress and can't keep track of the strengths and the weaknesses and challenges of each student. And if a bot eventually could, then kids could take charge of their education in a completely new way. They could have customized learning plans. The teachers don't have to be constantly doing the administrative work to develop for them. They could do the teaching, and they could do more customized teaching. So that's really exciting. I think, the question of are bots changing the way people learn? I think yes, but more importantly, I think that bots are leveraging the way people learn, the way people learn best. So research shows that, people learn best when they learn in, smaller chunks at a time with a certain amount of spacing between each lesson. People learn best when they are interacting with their content versus passive consumption of content. And so I think bots can introduce a lot of functionality that really leverage the way we know people learn. We look at, over at LifeSpark, we think about adult learning theory, andragogy, which is pedagogy for children, the way children learn, andragogy, the way adults learn. So we look at what does adult learning theory say about the way adults learn best, and then how can we incorporate that into what a chatbot does for them.
Yeah, all really interesting points. I think the only thing I'd add is that I think there's an opportunity, and one of the things that makes me most excited about bots in education is even beyond messaging in terms of richer modalities where bots can, since they can traverse so much data at once, and they can actually be sort of like the best assistant an educator can have. At Skype, we have a program we call Skype in Classroom, which connects about 800,000 classrooms around the world with really subject matter experts in specific units and things like if you were in the Midwest somewhere and you wanted to run a unit on the Galapagos Islands, you could bring in a marine biologist over Skype and they would do a lesson for you. Well, you extend that to what bots can do, and all of a sudden, the bots are essentially helping coordinate these opportunities for students to have these classroom-to-classroom learning scenarios. Bots are essentially collecting and organizing the output, all the user-generated content that comes out of those sessions, and it's actually much more of a kind of a passive collaboration that the bot helps with, as in addition to kind of the one-on-one thing where the bot can help you and personalize the needs of the individual, but also look at kind of that group persona, what's the needs of the group. So I think that's one of the things that excites me about bots is I can traverse both those modalities, but also those interaction types, groups, and individuals.
Cool. I love and appreciate the range of perspectives. So for the next question, I think a few of you have touched upon it in terms of saying that bots need to have some form of personalization when it comes to education. So this question's like probably from the builders. What types of capabilities and functionalities should developers or anyone in general should consider when they're building a bot for edtech to increase engagement?
So I think right off the bat, like you need to ask, like, first, if you're a new bot builder, just as with any product, what is your, you need to approach it from the perspective of the user. Like, what are the main problems that users have with your, using your brand, using your platform, whatever it is? And then how can we leverage a bot's superpowers to answer those unique problems? Recreating functionality that you have on web or that you have on mobile, I don't think will be a winning strategy for bots, because people have already adopted those platforms. They can already use that. There's no compelling reason to go to a bot for that. So I think the one thing I'd emphasize is just is thinking deeply about the user problem, and then the superpowers that bots offer around conversation and the ability to create a unique, personalized relationship.
So I know we talked a lot about engagement earlier. A couple other things that I would consider starting from the user problem, starting from something that's like not trying to make an experience that's just like really awesome or that demonstrate like something that's unique to the technology, but really starting from a user problem or a business problem that you're solving is definitely key. Then you can like build a bunch of gamification. Like if you're building an experience that like delivers something like daily that creates that habit, is definitely a way that you can create engagement. And then the other one is think about the social and like how do you bring, because it's a social platform, like how do you bring people and friends into that experience? So for education, things like, who are the experts? Who can you tap into in your network that can help you with a specific topic? Or who in your friend network actually has the answer? Or study groups, like we were talking about, like Quizlet study group. That would be like really awesome for a bot to be able to like quiz you on like a topic and like have all of your friends like participate and challenge that. On the other thing I would mention is there are a lot of tools available for bot developers. So like at Facebook, we have platform feature adoption, best practices, and we do like design reviews and things like that. So if you have like a bot and experience and you just want like feedback on how do you increase engagement and like continue to build on that, those are available tools.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. I think one of the best ways to drive engagement is to really humanize the bot. So I've seen a lot of success in developers when they code their backends to throw in typos on purpose or throw in different broken structure. So it really, as you're interacting with it, it doesn't come off as a robotic interaction, but it's a human. So you're more likely to share how you feel, and you're more likely to really gain something from it. The other thing I would add is really think about what medium this chatbot is going to manifest in. So if it's a chatbot on web versus mobile, like Alex mentioned, but also beyond that, if it's a IoT type device, like if you're interacting with a whiteboard, they're making smart whiteboards everywhere now, or if you're interacting with a robot. And then I've seen a lot of really, really cool applications of voice-activated interfaces in VR. And I think that's going to become extremely important when you think of students with learning disabilities and autistic students, because they're using those VR headsets to kind of drive their learning experience. So as you're developing for that, you want to make sure you're understanding what it's manifesting in, and the way people talk is very different from the way they type. And when you're fully immersed in this like metaverse, you are in a different state than when you're talking or when you're typing.
It's a really good point about the human aspect of it, because I would answer this question about engagement as all about balance. We are constantly striking a balance between, like, do we want to like let people binge on learning, or do we want to block them and give them small chunks of learning? Like, what will make people happy, retain them, and help them learn better? Do people do better with a longer experience or a shorter experience? Do they do better with a more sort of friendly and relatable character, or do they trust a more dry and highly credible professor type, you know? And so we're constantly, we're also balancing like how much information to provide versus how much help to give, you know, support in real time. We're dealing with parenting, right? So, you know, how much information do you want about parenting versus help me when my child is freaking out, you know? So I think that you know, driving engagement for us is this balancing act of figuring out what's going to retain people and also help them learn. Having really high quality content, having, you know, a team of writers that can all kind of sound similar, and a system in which they can input the content easily is really, really important. And another thing I want to mention is about re-engagement, because when, you know, people are in a learning session, like you're in a learning session right now, you don't just get up and walk out. In a bot, you just get up and walk out if you're done, right? So people leave in the middle of a session, and then we have to think about how do we re-engage them. It has to be contextualized. But if they left at the end of a session when the lesson was over, re-engaging them is a different story, right? So having re-engagement experiences be really contextualized, I think is very, very important for keeping people coming back for more. Yeah.
That's good. I agree on that last point particularly. I think we saw that with a bot that Alex worked on, where he was able to re-engage users 24 hours, basically at the same time they were using the bot the day before, by sending them a message if they stopped in the middle of an activity, saying like, hey, would you know, are you interested in, you know, this would be a good time to come back and take advantage of that or do something. And that was one of the more novel things that I had seen a bot developer do. It really impressed me because fundamentally, I think you should think about bots differently than, you know, like a website or an app from an engagement standpoint as well. You know, we tend to put up the same charts for, you know, like time spent with the bot and say, okay, this is engagement, this is engagement. I particularly like to think of, we talk about something called product truth, which is, you know, does what the bot says it's do actually pay off for the person who's using it? I think this is really important, particularly when it comes to education. If you're saying that you have a product that helps people learn faster or more completely, or maybe it improves how they pronunciate words or do something, I think your real metric you have to be is their success at that, because their ability to be successful with your product is going to drive engagement. It'll drive word of mouth, it'll drive more users, it'll drive easier acquisition for the next user. So like, I would really think about how you, you know, how successful you are completing features that you say the bot can do, and measure that against your actual user's success with the bot.
That's great advice. This is how Quizlet is growing too, right? Like you can prove that like people are learning, and it's like the word of mouth getting more people on.
Yeah, I think that if you start with something that you know you can build, and you know you can build it extremely well, then you can proof that out, and you can showcase like your value to the user and bring them back and bring others back.
Yeah, I think those are all really great points, and it sounds like you built a great bot, Alex. And so my next question is, what recommendations, and you all are going to have very different points on this, do you have for increasing bot discoverability? And so in this case, you know, there's a wide range of perspectives. So whether that's an educator, students, parents, how do you get people to find your bot?
So I think this is definitely a big question for the platforms,
yeah.
But also from the developer's perspective, there are tools that like platforms provide to enable developers to contextually ping people to use a bot. So for example, from Quizlet's perspective, you might think about if you're on the site and you're part of a class and you're studying a set, maybe there's some sort of contextual call out that's like, hey, do you want to study this set with your class in a messaging platform? And then that might prompt you to go into the platform and start a group experience. So while there's definitely a lot for the platforms, there's also ways in which developers can bring in kind of contextual call outs to promote growth.
Yeah, what Alex said. Basically, this is interesting. Like when we talk about discovery, like people are thinking, oh, how do people discover experiences within the platform? So like on Messenger, you have Discover, you have Search, so you have ways to like find new experiences. We have like an education section, you can go and find bots, but really what's working best for bot developers and partners is the contextual discovery. So we have invested a lot in like just giving out tools. Your example was a great one. Is like you can, if you have, let's say you have a website you're selling a software, say for learning languages, you could have like a contextual like prompt to your messenger, say coach experience that will like help work with you on your learning and like be a support to the product you just sold. Or if you are doing events in classrooms, you could like show the messenger code that links to the bot, and that's like the contextual way to like tell people about the experience. So we think about discovery in a broader context, like in the platform, but also outside of the platform, and like finding ways that talk to your customers wherever they are in the right context is really what's going to drive the discovery for your experience.
Yeah, I actually also agree. I think a lot of it is coming from you're doing something and it brings you to a space where there is a bot. The other thing that I see a lot is coming up a lot more is like bot stores. So you're able to kind of go in instead of like an app store, it's a bot store. So like Facebook, you can see all the different bots that are down there. And, there's other companies out there that are doing similar things where you can go and see what other bots you can take and deploy.
You want to get your bot into those different
platforms,
those stores. I will even broaden this a little bit more. I just heard this quote last night: "A rising tide lifts all boats." And this is the idea that, the more nurturing all of us are of bot users, the more people will use bots, right? So, even though our bot is only relevant to a very small subset of the population, we want everyone who comes through our doors to feel nurtured and welcome, and if they decide to leave, we want them to leave having had a very good experience with bots and not think, oh, bots aren't relevant for B, right? So we want to make sure that we are contributing to just the bot ecosystem by making a great experience no matter who comes through our doors, relevant or not. So that's one thing. Another thing is that I want to say about just advertising, and figuring out what the product market fit is. So, you can target ads and see how those go and see if people love it and if retention is good. And I don't know, there's just like a lot of testing that goes into figuring out what your right market is, and then advertising to them. And then the last thing I'll say is it's sort of similar to what you're talking about being contextual, but I would just call it strategic partnerships, right? Like there's a lot of people out there who serve the same market that we do, but do something completely different from us. And so figuring out ways to support their clients with our bot is a really good way to get discovered too.
I'd echo your point about like make a great bot, because like I think that'll make it a lot easier for the platforms to help you help users find your bot. I spent a lot of time working with bot developers, and I know all the bots that are in my bot store, and we have very few because we only want our users to have great bot experiences. And so we're very, very picky about what goes into the store. We have an editorial team that will work very closely with you to make sure you've got all the feedback and best practices and ways you can improve welcome messages and how to start things out so it's open-ended, so they know they can type, they can converse with it. It's really, like a lot of people don't know what bots are. And so removing barriers to using bots is how you improve discovery. We have bots that show up when you do a search result on Bing.com because you want to be there at the point where people are looking for something or they have a question and an intent, and so now you can chat with the bot after you do an organic search on Bing. And you can think of this as a progressive experience. Really, the bot can be at the top of your funnel. It doesn't have to be buried inside some messaging app somewhere. It can actually be on your website. It can be in your app. It can be on a search engine. And like the earlier you can start that conversation with a new user, a customer, I think the better chances are yet you have of introducing kind of the value that you bring to them, and then, you know, wanting to tell other people about it again. So like, remove barriers to adoption.
Yeah, just one thing I'd want to add. I'd love to get to a point where, you know how everyone says there's an app for that, for someone to say like there's a bot for that. And I think, yeah, like it's really easy to create a bot, like I mentioned. Anyone can go do it. Like you can go to IBM Watson and look at how to create a chatbot in 6 minutes. So find a use case, build it, and the more bots that are out there in the ecosystem, it's going to make it more of a pervasive thing in society, and just going to improve everything.
Yeah, I obviously totally agree with all of these points. If one bot wins, we all win, and we want all the bots to win because we want people to use bots. Yeah. And this question kind of echoes along the line of what Stephen had mentioned earlier with KPIs. What KPIs are important to you and your company? And it could be very broad, and so what do you pay attention to? What's important?
So the most important thing at Quizlet is that our users learn and master the subject. So it's really important for us that we track not only did we present study material to the user, but did they actually study that? Did they complete studying that? Which study modes did they use? And we're looking at kind of like deeper levels of engagement than just retention and return rates and things like that. As you know, obviously we don't have bots yet, so these are just metrics we're looking at overall. But I think that those are like the deeper level metrics that we look for.
So on Messenger, what we look at mostly is our partners metrics. So what we see is bots are building for the whole consumer funnel. So all the way from top of funnel user awareness when you're launching a new product, a new project, or an event, all the way to like creating an account, customer acquisition, doing transactions, and then customer care. So we have metrics for each of these use cases. So like depending on what the brand or developer or partner is building, what their experience is, the KPIs are a little bit different. But we'll look at it from that lens, and so it's like anywhere from like sales and transactions to like CSAT and cost reduction for customer care to like new account creation and engagement on the top of funnel side.
I have a question about that actually. So I think, you know, for education bots, there's like it's like slightly harder to get people to engage than something that's strictly fun and there for entertainment. And so I'm wondering if you guys are looking at, for IBM too, if you guys are looking at the difference, have different metrics for an education bot versus something that's strictly entertainment, strictly fun. Are we kind of looking at the same scales?
It depends for what. So
Okay.
typically what we want the partners to be successful. So whatever their business outcome
Got it.
is what we're tracking.
Okay.
For the platform health, we're tracking like the same metrics across verticals, but from a customer success perspective, we'll look at the vertical. So I'm actually looking at you and like the people that are building experiences for education. One of the things that's really exciting is like, do you measure just engagement by like how many times people come back, or do you actually able to measure that people are learning and they're learning better? And so like I use LifeSpark and I'm like really excited. Like I think it makes me a better mom. It's hard to really measure it concretely, but I think if like I can point to things that I've learned and things that I've practiced, and I think those are working. But I agree with you, it would be really awesome if we could like really have a specific metric that shows that the learning and the teaching are doing better, more effective.
Yeah, versus just looking at that curve. Yeah.
One of the things that we do, so my success is similar to Angelique's, getting developers to build with Watson. So we look at the success of our customers, how long they are staying in the platform, how they're building with it. In terms of the other thing I think about is the successful conversations that happen. And I see a lot of chatbot developers have a thumbs up, thumbs down, like, is this what you expected? And then it allows them to learn, and that's kind of the benefit of IBM Watson. You're able to learn from other user feedback, and maybe the word, I can't think of a word that would make sense, like field might mean something different in different like contextual situations, so it allows you to learn. And if we're able to get to an accuracy rate with an answer to whatever you want to determine to be success, then that will, that's one thing. And then we have different APIs. So we have like a sentiment analysis API that says like this person has an angry tone or this person has a happy tone. And then with that, there's a level of like a confidence interval associated with it. So when we give a number out, we give a confidence interval, and then when they use it, they also get a confidence interval. So making sure that we narrow that gap and it's with full confidence is another metric we look at.
Yeah, you know, same, like pretty much. One thing that I spent a lot of time looking at is I look at what people write in our ratings section. I look at what people just freestyle input, you know, where it's not expected, but I'm curious to know what they're putting. Because we've gone with a scripted approach, you know, with quick replies. And there's a few opportunities, though, where people can just put in an open-ended reply. And some of those opportunities are meant for the community. So it's like, what's your biggest takeaway from this lesson? And would you like to make that takeaway public? And then we can show, kind of a thin social layer, we can show other users what other people are getting out of the lesson. And so I go through and I approve and deny that input. And it really gives me a lot of information about whether or not people are taking away from the experience what I intended when I read the lesson. So that's one, I mean, it's not a statistical measurement, but I definitely walk away with an impression of how people are doing, and it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, Rachel, I think that's an awesome point, that you need to look at what people are typing to the bots.
Yeah.
This informs your roadmap, it informs everything, like the way that you're scripting, the way that the voice that the bot has. It's a really unique insight that you don't get on other platforms.
Definitely. And I can look at, you know, how many people wrote, even though we weren't asking what other topics they're interested in, they write, why aren't you teaching me about potty training?
Yeah.
And if I can count how many people said the word potty training, I know whether or not that's the next topic area for us to invest in.
How do you respond to that when someone says, why aren't you teaching? How does your bot handle that?
I think we say something like, do you remember the exact words? My co-founders are here.
Well, for a lot of words, we have responses. So if you're asking for topics or unsubscribe, so we identified similar words and have an appropriate response. But then for the range of words that we don't, when we say something like, you know, I'm sorry, I'm not trained to recognize that. Let me ask you, like, let me take you back to where you were.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We've tested a lot of different responses, and we found that the shorter the response, the better.
Yeah.
Right? The quicker we get them back on track, the better.
All really good things, and the only thing I would add is that I think it's really important to be very transparent with the people that you depend on to understand the metrics that you care about. In fact, I'd go so far as to say is that, like, writing is so important to bots that you know, I can see a model in a world where the writer is incentivized based on how much you know, a number of messages get sent to the bot by users. I mean, I think there's so much that you can do just with writing to get people to engage more, whether it be personality, whether it be friendliness, using emoticons and stickers to elicit response. I think the one thing I continually harp on with everybody is, like, you know, don't take shortcuts when it comes to writing the voice of your bot. It's the thing that fundamentally differentiates it. As smart as it is, no matter how many cognitive skills or functionality, if it has a bland or a boring voice, people will not engage with that. And so we do spend a lot of time looking at what people say back to the bot, but we also think very deeply about making sure that the response back to that question elicits continued engagement, because you're at a point where the user is going to abandon because they didn't like the initial thing the bot said, and you have a chance to win them back. And so, you know, no bot is really capable of answering everything, so you have to have clever fallbacks, but even as important as that, it's important to be able to, you know, kind of re-engage at the point where they're most likely to use you again, which is, you know, before they leave your store. Catch them on the way out. Do something clever. Say something, you know, share a GIF, you know. And I think fundamentally we have to be kind of, you know, scrappy and different than apps and websites because it is a conversation. It can end at any point. People are multitasking, doing many things at once, and bots will just happily sit by waiting there for somebody to come talk to them. You know, and if they don't take action, if they're not proactive, and they're not engaging themselves, you won't win that user.
Awesome, thank you so much. So this is now the time to open up for questions. I think we have a little less than 10 minutes, so if we could take a few questions, that'd be awesome. If anyone has questions, no pressure. Okay.
How are people currently building multilingual bots? Are they building multiple bots, or is there the magic translation bot in the middle?
I can tell you how we're doing it on Skype. It's one bot, and it has language detection built in. So as the person starts typing to it, and they say something in Spanish, then it queries them and prompts them, hey, would you like to speak in Spanish with me? And that's, we're trying to do that irrespective of client language. So like whatever, you know, app, maybe, you know, if they start talking to the bot in French, and that bot can communicate in French, then it should communicate in French.
Yeah, we at Watson, the chatbot is built on the conversation service, which is our API that you use to build. And there's a GUI associated with it, but you can actually configure the language. And we have support, I think the number might be 16, but I feel like it's 10. But we support a good chunk of languages. And then if you're using other services like text-to-speech, so you want to make your chatbot into a voice bot, we offer the services as well that's added on. But I think there's a cost associated with that.
Hi, I'm Jenny. I work at Coursera. One of the early worries that Coursera had in the beginning was from professors thinking that we were going to replace their jobs. And I'm wondering, from your experience working in bots, what are some things that, you know, at least in today's world, are uniquely humans are better positioned to do versus the bots, and how do you think that might change over the long term?
I can maybe take it. You know, I think there's so many types of learning, right? So there's learning that is self-driven, where people are going out there and they're looking for an education, or they're looking to pick up a new skill or something. So I don't think that we can replace professors and teachers and coaches and live learning. We can use bots to complement that experience and enhance that experience. But I think where bots are going to play a bigger role is with the people who are self-driven learners, people who are going out there and looking to learn something. I think bot functionality is going to do better than people could do. You know, I can be in the room with a parent while they're struggling with a child, you know, in the bot, but I can't do that as their coach, you know. So I think that we're going to be able to work together, and we shouldn't feel threatened. I don't think, you know, professors should feel threatened by bots, and obviously bots don't feel threatened by professors, but maybe at IBM Whitson they do, I don't know. Yeah, I think that there's room for everyone.
I would add,